Hello and welcome. We're here at Structure Conference in San Francisco on a sunny afternoon in June. I'm here with, Matt Howard from Norwest Venture Partners, who's been very involved in cloud computing. He's going to give us a little bit of information on what you're up to. Nice to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. So, where do you want to start?
Well, we're at a cloud computing conference called Structure. Let's jump right into it. What are some of the interesting things you're seeing in our space right now?
Well, a couple things, but first it might be helpful to tell you a little bit of background about our firm, just to give you a little insight. So our firm just celebrated our 50th anniversary, one of the oldest venture firms. We invested in Crate and Dairy Queen many years ago out of the Midwest, so interesting history. But we've been part of the cloud really since the very early days. We were one of the original incubators behind Verio, which is one of the original ISPs, kind of the precursor to the cloud. We also invested in the first application service provider called Choreo, which was before there was cloud, there was ASPs, and we were the largest investor in rack space. And so we've had a nice affiliation with cloud and things that go into the cloud.
And the infrastructure.
So we were the only venture investor in PeopleSoft, for example, one of the first client-server companies. So a little bit about the background of the firm.
So you were one of the early investors in Rackspace, which is very interesting because I'm continually hearing sort of analogies in terms of Rackspace and how they've managed to get a fairly good PE ratio based on their sort of affiliation with cloud computing, where in some ways a large portion of their revenue is very traditional in sort of infrastructure, managed hosting, and their visibility as a major cloud player has given them sort of a launch pad to attain a sky-high valuation in a lot of ways. What are your thoughts?
You know, I'm not on the board, can't really comment on it. All I can tell you is that when you get a chance to meet the management, their tagline is fanatical support. And they take it to the nth degree. When you hear the CEO talk about Net Promoter Score, it's a religion there about customer satisfaction. And I've had him speak at different portfolio companies, and it's nearly a religious event. And they're just fanatical to take a product that normally might be considered low margin and make it all about the customer. It's an amazing driven company, and it really is a unique company.
Definitely. Actually, just in full disclosure, Pat Condon and I have a long history as well. He's one of the co-founders down there.
That's great.
One of the trends that I keep hearing here at the conference is around the idea of big data, the ability to compete based on time, analytical, those who can sort of achieve, greater insights and agility through the use and transformation of data into actionable information seem to be sort of leading the pack. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think there are three trends here that I'm really think are very key right now. One is big data. Two is basically infrastructure as a service, and I could define a little bit later on. Mobility as applied to virtual machines, and some enhancements in agile software development. But big data today is very fascinating because I think the human species, I think we're pack rats. We like to store stuff. And to have an economical way of capturing data and storing it very economically and going back in a simple way to mine it is very powerful. And I think that's really one of the things that Hadoop really brings to the table as a core infrastructure. So I think it's very exciting. I mean, through my own practice as a venture capitalist, I don't have data to back this up completely, but I would say almost every Fortune 1000 company I've had a chance to meet with has a Hadoop cluster in production or actively in the lab. It's becoming a standard tool in the IT belt.
It's really interesting. It's become a driver of the modern information age. It's really interesting to see how quickly that has become, as you said, a kind of de facto standard.
Yeah.
What are some of the companies that really are interesting to you?
Well, I still think Cloudera and Hortonworks are very interesting. I think they provide a very important part of the ecosystem, and that is kind of similar to what Red Hat did for Linux. At full disclosure, we're investing in a company called Hadapt, which is allowing structured data to fit inside of an unstructured universe. and with a full SQL implementation. So we allow Hadoop to handle structured and unstructured data, because most people look at Hadoop as primarily an unstructured repository. So there's a lot of exciting things happening around there, and I think over the next 18 months we're going to see just, I mean, if you go to the Hadoop conferences, it's amazing where you hear companies present best practices. There are people showcasing, sharing data. Conferences are always selling out, and again, almost every CIO I'm talking to has some big data Hadoop related implementation going on. Some companies, I'll tell you, it's very interesting, even our own portfolio, they use Hadoop and they won't disclose or use it because it's become almost a confidential competitive weapon.
Wow.
And they don't want to tell people they're using Hadoop and how they're using it.
Mm-hmm. So it's interesting that we're seeing sort of the prevalence of big data within a lot of these companies. It's almost like cloud has become the kind of standard mechanism, operating procedure for just about any company these days. And the emergence of other applications that sort of take advantage of this kind of cloud or internet-centric environment are really starting to take the sort of center stage. I guess we're moving up the stack, if you will. So I guess as we move up the stack, what are the things you're seeing? You know, there's a lot of talk about SaaS, you know, being kind of the way you just build software today. You know, what are you seeing in terms of more end user type applications that might be interesting?
Well, it's very interesting. If you look kind of at the at like a bookcase, on one side of the bookcase you have the companies like Amazon or Rackspace offering basic fundamental cloud infrastructure. The end of the bookcase, you're seeing some SaaS such as Salesforce and NetSuite and companies like Marketo. Mm-hmm. Very interesting company, Marketo. I mean, a tremendous amount of our portfolio is using Marketo for marketing automation. Amazing company. But people now are looking at anything that they can put X as a service. They're very interested. So there are companies out there who are doing video and networking and management systems, putting infrastructure as a cloud. I think today people just don't want to spend multiple millions of dollars and have a very complicated integration effort and see the ROI 18 months from now. Mm-hmm. It just feels like everybody is being multitasked to such an incredible detail that they don't have the time and they need to show their company more near-term benefit. And I was mentioning early on, I was at a car dealership and I asked them, just out of curiosity, what percentage of your cars today are leased versus sold? And he said it was 75% of all the cars at this dealership are leased. And I felt like that's just like SaaS. People just don't want to own anything. They want to be able to instant on, instant off, let it go away, and take some risk.
Yeah. It's almost like people are looking for they have a short attention span. They need a now kind of approach. And also the car analogy is one that keeps coming up in terms of cloud computing. It's the idea that I'm in San Francisco for a cloud conference and I don't need to buy